Well, hello. Under the title United Humans, a first chapter is the ABC, and the second chapter is persons. And then there is a chronological order of 116 persons, starting with in 750 before Christ, Homerus in Greece wrote a story about the gods as follows. The chief god Zeus didn't want to say who was the most beautiful of three goddesses. Instead, there was decided that the biggest idealists under the humans had to judge, and that was Paris. What Paris didn't know was that it was about three goddesses: Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Paris had to give a golden apple with the writing for the most beautiful one. Hera promised Paris the biggest kingdom. Athena promised him immortality in battle. And Aphrodite promised him the most beautiful woman on earth. Paris gave the apple to Aphrodite, and she gave him a belt which made him irresistible. One day, the father of Paris sends him to the king of Sparta. There he was well received, and he learned Helena. He learned to know Helena, the wife's king, the king's wife. She was the most beautiful woman in the world. And Paris, thanks to the belt he got, he was irresistible. Well, they fell in love, Paris and Helena, and they left to Troy. The husband of Helena, of course, didn't agree. So he wanted to go to war. But he was asking himself if it was worth it. Then the goddess Athena came to tell him in the night that his kingdom was worth nothing if he could not submit Troy. Together with other kings, the king of Sparta decided to go to Troy to get Helena back and to destroy Troy. But the walls of Troy were built, where um, it was impossible to conquer the walls of Troy because those city walls were constructed by the gods themselves. After years of fighting, well, they found a trick to conquer Troy. They resembled their disappearance from Troy, but they left a wooden horse on the beach. The Trojans, they rolled in the wooden horse into their city. At night, soldiers escaped from the horse and opened the city doors to let in the other soldiers to attack the city. 540 before Christ. Parmenides. He lived in the south of Italy, south of Naples, in a Greek colony. At around 540 before Christ, a few philosophers there attacked the old Greek religion. Homerus, he says that the gods do things which are disgusting. They steal, they cheat, they, they do adultery. This behavior is inappropriate for a god. In a poem, Parmenides describes how he, from the kingdom of the night, makes a journey to the land of a goddess, and that's the land of light, the truth, the land of the truth. Wisdom and truth, they are an unchangeable, always remaining the same being, which is detached from our senses. Which are senses, which are the source of our stupidity and ignorance. For instance, black people, they make their gods black and with rounded lips and noses, while the Thracians, they give red hair and blue eyes to their gods. In reality, the humans will never know with certainty all about the gods. But the gods are there, and they are everywhere, always. 500 before Christ. Heraclitus says that a human cannot bathe twice in the same stream. With this, he gives a world of a view of the universe, which is always changes. Everything is constantly in evolution. He lived around 500 before Christ. 441. Sophocles writes a story about Antigone. She wants to bury her brother. The king has forbidden it because her brother is a traitor. The king has placed guardians next to the body. But without them noticing something, the body is buried. When the king notices the body is buried, he says that the people who have done it will be punished with death penalty. Then it comes out that Antigone has buried the body of her brother. And she even says she's proud about what she has done because it is the law of the gods to do so. But the king remains with his decision, and despite the fact that Antigone is the fiancée of his son, Antigone is locked in a cave. As soon as the son of the king knows this, he's angry, and there is a fight between the father and the son, a discussion. Then a viewer comes by and he says, well, the gods don't give the king right. The king is wrong. The king doesn't believe him and he thinks the viewer only wants money. Well, anyway, the king and his son go together to the cave where Antigone is locked. There they hear Antigone screaming, and she commits suicide. She hangs herself in the cave. Then the son is so furious against his father and he wants to try to kill him. But that is by accident, because he can't kill him. But by accident, with his sword, the son kills himself while dying. He gives his he gives a big hug to Antigone. When the wife of the king finds out all of this, she commits suicide. Well, that's what we call a tragedy, a Greek tragedy. Sophocles has written it in 441 before Christ. What a story! 420 before Christ. Democritus, he was of the opinion that the general opinion that you can cut an apple endlessly into smaller and smaller pieces. So he thinks it's wrong, that idea. That was the usual thought at the time. Instead, Democritus was of the opinion that everything would exist of what he called atoms, which means not to be cut, impossible to cut it into pieces. Well, not a single of his writings has survived. Plato, he thought that the thoughts of Democritus are so disgusting that he dreamed that all his writings would be burned. Democritus became 90 years old and he passed away around 370 before Christ. In 399 before Christ, we have Socrates. Socrates was a man who believed that an interesting conversation can lead to better views and thoughts and insights. But because of supporting a wrong political ally, he was accused of treason, and in 399 before Christus, he was convicted to drinking a poisonous drink, and he had to die from it, and he died from it. Plato, at the time, he was 19, and he found it so unright what happened to his friend Socrates. Plato wanted to find a way to make improvement to society as a whole. Around 378 before Christ, he was in the south of Italy with mathematicians who had been thinking about the law of Pythagoras and about the infinity and the order of the universe. Well, much pleasure wasn't there with these guys, and they refused any luxury. During 50 years, in which Plato has lived afterwards, he was educating that eternal ideas should be the measure of our thinking and action, and that we can find that measure by thinking and guessing. Oh, that's Plato. The next one is Aristotle. He was a disciple of Plato.